Alright everybody, this is when movies were movies. I am really amped up for this one. This is when tough men were tough men and tough women were tough women. We're probably going to have more ammunition expended than any other motion picture up until this point. This movie is the shit. Alright people, here we go. 1977, The Gauntlet. To the trailer.
Clint Eastwood is back in The Gauntlet.
You're flying to Las Vegas, coming back with a prisoner for us, whom you will remand to custody county.
I work for Metro Squad. Why me?
Your division commander says you're a man who gets the job done.
My name is Shockley, and we've got a plane to catch. Let's go.
Shockley's got to be stopped. Stopped hard.
Open fire!
If there are any casualties other than Shockley and the girl, someone's going to be answerable. You.
I make the decisions.
Who are you protecting?
Me! I'm protecting me, okay? So lay off!
When you gonna realize I'm not the enemy?
This bike stays with me. You three can take a hike.
Hey, man, this is our choppers, Charlie.
This is my gun, Clyde.
He thought he knew everything about survival until he met a girl who knew more.
What if he gets through?
He can't get through.
What's wrong with you, man? This is the bus. I don't give a damn if it's Queen Elizabeth. Get your hand away from that lever.
He's gotten this far, hasn't he?
How many units have you deployed? 4 dozen, 5 dozen? And those marksmen you're using are the finest on the force.
He knew he was a good cop, and this was his chance to prove it.
Me, I'm going in.
Why?
At least someone will know I tried.
Who, Blakelock?
No, me.
All set?
Ready.
I suggest we let Shockley drive right into the city. Now, we have his route. We clear the streets along his route, deploy our men, and create an impassable barrier. A gauntlet, if you will. He won't have a chance.
This is the biggest day the city has ever seen, and the odds are 100 to 1 they won't make it. But they're willing to take that chance. Clint Eastwood in The Gauntlet.
Alright people, this movie was directed by the man who is starring in it, Clint Eastwood. And if you don't know who Clint Eastwood is as an actor or a director, what are you doing here? And if you don't know what kind of movies Clint Eastwood has directed, my God, I mean, he's directed movies like Play Misty for Me, which was actually his first. He's done High Plains Drifter, The Eiger Sanction, The Outlaw Josie Wales, The Gauntlet, Bronco Billy, Firefox, Sudden Impact, Honky Tonk Man, Pale Rider, Unforgiven, for God's sakes. Absolute Power, True Crime, Space Cowboys, Mystic River, Perfect World, Flags of Our Fathers, Gran Torino, Hereafter, American Sniper. Did I say Unforgiven already? I can't even remember, there's so many. Anyway, the list of movies that he has directed has already put him in the pantheon amongst the greatest Hollywood directors of all time. I'm talking with the Spielbergs or Scorsese's or anybody. He's in there, if not above there. So he's not just an action star, he's not just a movie star. Clint Eastwood is one of the greatest directors in the history of cinema. Period. Alright, this movie stars Clint Eastwood as Ben Shockley. Just take all the names of the movies I just listed and attribute him as an actor to all those things. I mean, the guy's been Dirty Harry. He's been Bronco Billy. He's been in so many movies I can't even begin to name them all. So it's Clint Eastwood. God damn it! In this movie, he plays Ben Shockley. Ben Shockley's kind of a bum. He's like he's not Dirty Harry in this motion picture at all. He's kind of a washed up alcoholic cop who's on the force for a little bit too long and just spends all his night out in the clubs drinking, and he gets pegged for this job because he's a man who gets things done. Maybe. Now, playing Gus Malley, or should I say Augustina Malley, is Sondra Locke. Now, Sondra Locke had a career before Clint Eastwood. She was on stuff like Cannon, Barnaby Jones, Planet of the Apes, Kung Fu, The Night Gallery. But her career really took off when she did The Outlaw Josie Wales with Clint Eastwood. They became a couple, a power couple in Hollywood. They never got married. They were together for years. He was married when they got together, and she was married the whole time they were together. I'm not going to get into the thing. Anyway, and they did a slew of motion pictures together. For like about 8-10 years, if you've seen Clint Eastwood, you've seen Sondra Locke in the same movie. I'm talking about they were in The Outlaw Josie Wales together. They were in Every Which Way But Loose, Every Which Way You Can. They were in Sudden Impact. They were in The Gauntlet. They were in, did I say Bronco Billy? I can't remember. But they were in like a whole slew of motion pictures together, one after the other, after the other, after the other. So if you basically got the two of them as a package deal in every motion picture they were making for quite some time. So her career kind of became synonymous with Clint Eastwood. And then after the whole thing about the breakup, it kind of died off the radar a bit. She directed a couple things like Rat Boy and some stuff. But her career kind of faded out, although she does have a new movie coming out at the age of 70, whatever she is now. So that's kind of interesting to see that she's still floating around the game. Anyway, playing Josephson, who is Ben Shockley's good buddy, is Pat Hingle. Pat Hingle, to anybody of my generation will remember, it was on like a quadrillion TV shows at the time. He was, I mean, if you knew Pat, if you seen his face, you'd say, oh shit, yeah, Pat Hingle. He was on so many television shows, and he popped up in other Clint Eastwood movies. I know he was in Sudden Impact. He might have been another one or two floating around in there. But I remember him distinctly in Sudden Impact. He was in this. Really, really good actor. One of those kind of actors, like, this is an earthy actor. You see this guy, he's not there because he's a pretty boy. He's not there because he's one of those guys that, like, has, like, some kind of a glam look to him. He's not at all. He was just like that guy that, like, this guy could be my barber, this guy could be my butcher, this guy could be anybody. And he played all those roles with conviction and this gravitas where you're like, he's a man of the world. He's a real dude in real movies, and he always brought realism to whatever character he played. So to Pat Hingle, God bless, man. Nice job. Okay, playing Police Commissioner Blakelock. What a name. Blakelock. Come on, Blakelock. Playing Police Commissioner Blakelock was William Prince. William Prince is another man who's had an extremely long career in Hollywood. By the time, I mean, he was old by the time he made it to The Gauntlet. He had already been in so many things. His career actually ran from 1943 to 1944, upon which he died shortly after that. So you're looking at a 50-year career in the business. This guy has been in so many things. It's almost pointless to try to even list them all. He was in things like The Stepford Wives. He was in Dead Reckoning with Humphrey Bogart, for Christ's sake. I mean, to show you how far back this guy goes. He was in comedies like Spies Like Us. He was on so many TV shows, you almost can't even count them. 50-year career from 43 until the mid-90s. William Prince was another one of those guys. You've seen him in a motion picture, especially as he got older. He had this authoritativeness as he got older. We'd watch him in a motion picture and you'd be like, God damn, that dude's that guy's in charge. When he plays Blakelock in this movie, you're like, I could see him being the police commissioner, I could see him being the mayor, I could see him be the attorney general, I could see him being the president, for Christ's sake. He brought that kind of authority to the role, and when he played it that way. So, but it was kind of like a weak, disturbed authority. But nonetheless, in this motion picture, it was still great. He did a great job. Okay, here's one of my favorites in here, Bill McKinney. Bill McKinney is another guy, extremely long career, and he was like what I would call one of the Clint Eastwood whack pack. And he was one of those guys that would pop up in so many Clint Eastwood movies, you'd be like, holy shit, because he would have this habit of making motion pictures with his friends and with his buddies, and you would see the same cast pop up in Josie Wales as you've seen in High Plains Drifter, as you've seen in why am I going blank? As you've seen in Every Which Way But Loose and Every Which Way You Can. You see the same guys are playing bikers, or playing cowboys, or playing whatever, but they're sitting there in this, and Bill McKinney was one of his guys. By way of example, he was in Every Which Way But Loose. He was in Every Which Way You Can. He was in Outlaw Josie Wales. He was in The Gauntlet. He was in Every Which Way But Loose. He was in Every Which Way You Can. He was in Every Which Way You Can. He was in Outlaw Josie Wales. He was in Every Which Way You Can. 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 He was in Bill McKinney was in so many Clint Eastwood movies, it was like, wait, when is he going to show up? When's he going to show up? I know he's going to pop up. But another one of those guys, he could play comedy, he could play drama, he could play anything that you needed him to play in a motion picture, and he was just believable. Again, not a pretty boy. Clint Eastwood didn't surround himself with a bunch of models and pretty boys that would be like, I said, he surrounded himself with men, dudes, you know what I'm talking about? And Bill McKinney was one of those guys. Long career, started off playing like biker parts in flicks and everything, and he just, every time you ever seen him in a motion picture or TV show after that, you'd be like, Eastwood, because all that would go through your head is all the times you've seen him in Clint Eastwood movies. So, God bless the man. Okay, playing Assistant AG Feyderspiel, which is really just the right-hand man of Blakelock, partners in crime. Anyway, Michael Cavanaugh. Michael Cavanaugh is another one of those guys. He had a long career in TV. He had a long career in movies. He also was one of those guys that Clint Eastwood would pop into every now and so often. He had him in this. I think he had him in the second Every Which Way But Loose movie, Every Which Way You Can, which was all right. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but he was in that one too. He popped up on tons and tons of TV shows, usually playing like a heavy or a jerk or some kind of a gangster kind of guy, you know, some kind of evil, nefarious character, usually. Not always, but usually. I almost forgot. He did. He actually played in another Clint Eastwood movie, The Enforcer, which he was one of the, like, those revolutionary gang members. So again, he was one of those, you know, Clint's boys that would pop up in Clint's movies. Clint Eastwood, playing Ben Shockley, is called in to meet the police commissioner. He goes into work. He's a washed-up cop at this point. He doesn't care anymore. He spends most of his nights out drinking and getting hammered. Shows up for this meeting with the police commissioner. His friend Josephson is saying, why do you look so bad? You look horrible. You should have shaved. You should have done something. You should have put a tie on. You look like a bum. He meets the police commissioner. The police commissioner says, listen, I need you to transport a prisoner for a trial. You got to fly to Vegas, pick this guy up, bring him back to Phoenix. End of story. Shockley can't figure out why he's being asked to do this. He's like, he knows who he is. He works for Metro Squad. His career is not at a high point. He's like, why, with all respect, why would you pick me? Who am I? And the police commissioner says to him, I was told by your division commander, you're a man who gets things done. Something right then and there doesn't sound right, if you know what I'm talking about. All right, he heads to the airport. He takes off. He gets out there in Las Vegas and says, hey, I'm looking for a guy named Gus Malley. Police there like, we don't have no Gus Malley. There's no Gus Malley here. But we got an Augustina Malley. What an asshole. Anyway, they take Clint Eastwood in to meet Sondra Locke, Gus Malley. And this is where the movie really kicks into gear. The interaction between the two of them is legendary in this motion picture. She's a smart-talking, fast-thinking, fast-on-her-feet prostitute. He's this gnarled, old, doesn't believe a thing, doesn't care anymore police officer who just has this one stupid job to do, and then he can go back to getting drunk on the force every other night. The thing is, O'Malley is telling him that she cannot leave, that they cannot leave. As soon as they leave, they're dead people. She actually tells him that there's a line on the books at the betting houses that they will never make it to that trial, that they will never make it back to Phoenix. He thinks that she's lying. He's like, well, I've seen this a million times before. She's this crazy prostitute. Who cares? I don't believe a thing that she says. But luckily for him, it takes him a couple more hours to process her paperwork. So he's got nothing to do but go over to the bookie houses in Vegas. While sitting there and picking up a bottle of Jack Daniels, he looks up at the betting boards and sees 10th race, Anita. Malley no-show, 75-1. That seems a little bit odd even to a guy who's kind of in a state of disbelief himself, to say the least. Because she refuses to leave, they were going to transport Sondra Locke in an ambulance strapped down to a gurney. But now, after speaking a little bit more to her, and seeing that Malley no-show in the race, he says to himself, you know what? I better get me a rental car. So he has it set up that there's going to be a rental car halfway between the airport and the prison that he's leaving. Gets there, picks up the rental car, let's just say, is not functioning properly. From there, a chase develops. A car appears up behind him out of nowhere. Some shots are exchanged. Chase takes place. They get away. They go back to Gus Malley's house, her little house of prostitution, if you will. And at that point takes place one of the greatest shootouts in cinematic history. Not that it was that suspenseful, like there's a lot of shots going back and forth, but when you see a bunch of cops unload that much ammunition into one house, to the point where the house starts falling off the foundation, it is a scene for the ages, and it is great. I'm not going to tell you how, but they escape from that situation. They tear on out the joint. They hijack a constable in his car. Constable, cop, sheriff, call him what the hell you want. And he says, yo, you're going to take me to the border. So he calls up Blakelock. He says, listen, man, I'm just trying to make it to the border. There's shit going crazy here. I mean, they blew up my rental car. Damn, did I just give that away? They blew up my rental car. They shot the shit out of the house I was hanging out in. Everywhere I go, there's cops shooting at me. He goes, I don't understand this. Have my boys meet me at the border. Our police force, our people that I can trust. Driving to the border, they're heading out there, and let's just say Augustina starts to shed some knowledge on Mr. Shockley. She's noticing things that he doesn't quite pick up on. She's noticing things that he's in a state of disbelief about. She's noticing that every time they are literally about to get shot up, he's made a phone call back to his people that he trusts, and all of a sudden, more bullets are flying. Is it an accident? Is it mistaken identity? Is the wires getting crossed with communication? Well, she sees something that he doesn't. I'm not going to give too much more of this movie away, except to say a few more things. There is a great scene in the desert between Clint Eastwood and a bunch of bikers. He goes on a rant of dialogue that might be one of the greatest rants of dialogue that you have ever seen in a motion picture. There is a scene in this movie with a helicopter chase, where they are chasing Clint Eastwood and Sondra Locke as they're riding on this chopper motorcycle through the desert. Let me explain something to you. This is before CGI. This is way before any of that kind of crap. This was all in camera. A helicopter chase with that bike, the stunt work done alone in that, that's worth the price of admission to this motion picture. Even if you just phase out, fall asleep, eat candy through the rest of it, which I can't imagine happening because this fucking movie is phenomenal. Even if you did something like that, the helicopter chase alone is worth the price of admission. Also, the end sequence of this motion picture is just incredible. It's a city bus going down a city street with every city cop from God knows how many districts unloading in it, trying to stop these two to make it to the trial. Normally I wouldn't tell you that, but the trailer basically already did. It's one of the greatest scenes in action movie history. It is one of the best shot scenes in action movie history. When you were a kid and you seen this movie, or even an adult, you would sit there and say, God, you know, what would it be like just driving down a city street with a giant bus and having them unload on it? How far would we be? It was just mind-boggling. I'd never seen anything like that in a motion picture before. I don't think I've seen anything in a motion picture like that since. Okay, why does this movie work so well? Beyond the fact that you have an incredible cast, you have a list of actors in here that is just from Clint Eastwood and Sondra Locke and Pat Hingle and William Prince. You got actors in this movie. You got real actors in this movie. People that know what they're doing. You got a director, Eastwood. His movies, come on, man. It doesn't get better. It's beautifully shot, it's beautifully written, it's beautifully directed, it's done at such a top-notch level, at such a top-notch quality standard that it takes it out of just feeling like you're watching some kind of a, an action flick or an exploitation flick. This movie could have been an exploitation flick just by the premise of it, just by the action scenes of it. It could have been easily some Grindhouse Saturday matinee thing, but given Clint Eastwood, given the actors that were in it, given the writers that wrote it, it was a top-level, top-tier movie. You see the Gauntlet, you think, my God, this is easily on the level of a Scarface or Heat or any of those kind of movies. Easily right there. Doesn't get recognized as much, sometimes gets forgotten, but it is a amazing motion picture. The characters work in this motion picture because you have a relationship developed between this washed-up cop and this prostitute, and you actually wind up rooting for them. These two people that are gruff and rough and against each other, and in real life you probably wouldn't want to know either one of them, to be brutally honest, but you see them somehow getting drawn to each other in this little love affair that you could never have imagined, normally happening. You come together, and it's a beautiful story of two people that are facing insurmountable odds and are partially broken people, and they somehow unite and become this great front. Another thing that makes this motion picture work is I want all the directors out there and the people that watch motion pictures to see how motion pictures should work. In this motion picture, you got two strong characters. You got Clint Eastwood, you got Sondra Locke. They are on equal footing through this movie. He's a strong character, she's this strong character. He's a guy, she's a woman, she's incredibly smart, she figures things out ahead of him, but not at the point where it makes him look like he's some idiot or some dweeb or some, weak, emasculated chump. It's at the point that she just caught on first. And because he's so wrapped up in his fog of, well, the police would never do that he doesn't see what's going on. She's a strong, powerful female character. He's a strong, powerful male character. They're both occupying the same space in this motion picture, and they both command respect, and they both command power without denigrating the other, without putting the other in a position to look stupid or inferior. This is the way movies should be made. And to all those SJW Star Wars flicks and all that kind of stuff, watch The Gauntlet. That's all I got to say. Anyway, people, that's it. I got to take off. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you really had a good time. I enjoyed doing these. I hope you enjoyed checking them out. Peace, love, be happy. Take care of each other. Take care of everybody you love. Bye.